Welcome to Lee Johnson Mazda. I'm James Goldman, and today my customer is looking for a vehicle for herself, and then her daughter's 15 and going to be driving here pretty soon, so she wants to get a vehicle that is going to be safe for her to learn how to drive on. She also likes to ski and likes to go hiking with her family with her husband John. Okay, so this is the all-new 2014 Mazda 3. As you can see, Mazda did their Kodo Soul Motion design philosophy to it. So as it's just sitting here, it looks like a cheetah ready to pounce. It's got a very nice look to it. You have the 5-point grille on the front, and you're going to notice that with all the Mazdas. So with the 5-point grille, when you're driving down the road, people are going to see the front of that car. They're going to know you're driving in a Mazda. Very beautiful front look to it. Mazda did a great job when they designed this. They integrated this grille into the little winglets and the headlights, so everything just flows together. That's the whole Kodo Soul Motion design philosophy. Starting in the front here, the headlights on this vehicle, if you go with the S Grand Touring like this model, this has xenon headlights. So xenon headlights, high intensity discharge, is going to be a lot brighter for you. So I know with all that commuting you do with the 30 miles to work and back every day, you know, early in the morning when it's dark out, you want those brighter lights. It's going to be safer for you to see. Plus for your daughter, obviously having a brighter light is going to be safer for her with, you know, learning how to drive. On top of that, when you actually take a corner in this vehicle, the headlight turns left and right. So your daughter can actually see around that corner, and you know, when you're doing that commute in the morning, early in the morning, if there's a deer jumping out on the side of the road or whatnot, it's going to light that deer up. You're going to be able to see. It's going to be a lot safer thing for you. Plus, with the new headlights, you can get a system on this where it has high beam control. So what it's going to actually do for you is it's going to turn the high beams off and on depending on the light out there. So right now in your current Dodge Durango that you have, I'm sure you probably never use your high beams. You know, maybe you've used them once in the past, but they're just so annoying to have to turn off and on all the time. Well, in this vehicle, when you're on that 30-mile commute to work, if you're in a situation where there's no one driving in front of you, or no one coming down the road at you and it's low light, it's going to automatically turn the high beams on so you can see better at night. So just another nice safety aspect there. So really, really cool deal. Plus, there's an LED light that's inside here. So in the daytime, so in the afternoon when you're driving home from work, that LED light's going to light up to daytime running light. So again, another safety thing. And for your daughter to start out driving, people are going to see her on the road, so she's more visible. Come on over here to the side of the car. This vehicle is equipped with 18-inch wheels. So the 18-inch wheel is going to make the car handle better, so it's more of a sporty ride. Helps out with the cornering with the lower profile tires. So again, for safety, not only does it look nice, but for safety, you're going to be able to avoid maybe an accident instead of getting in one. So it's a nice feature on there. Well, let's walk to the back of the car. I know you had told me that skiing and hiking are two of the hobbies that you really enjoy doing, and you want to take the family and do those things. So you want a vehicle that still is going to retain some of that cargo space of your Durango, but you want a better fuel efficiency because you're doing all that driving. So with this, Mazda makes a hatchback, and you have a ton of cargo space in here. And I remember you said that you looked at the Chevy Cruze already, and you also looked at the Subaru Impreza. Well, compared to those vehicles, compared to, say, the Chevy Cruze, this actually has more interior space in the trunk for cargo volume. Plus, on the Chevy Cruze, they don't make a hatchback like this. So with this, the great thing is you can fold those seats down. You have this privacy shade. You can pull this out. You can put all your stuff you need to for hiking in there and still be able to take the three of your family on a drive. You can just fold one of those seats down and put it all in there. For skiing, same thing. Fold one of the seats down, throw your skis inside the car, or if you want to throw a roof rack on the top and put the keys out, or the skis outside, maybe a cargo box, something like that, you can do all those things. So it's a really, really nice feature. Plus this privacy shade, when you close this down, people aren't going to see the stuff that's inside the cargo area here. So it's going to be very safe. So I'm not sure if you have one of those cargo covers in your Durango or not, but that comes standard on this vehicle. So people aren't going to be able to see the stuff in the back and then steal it because they see it. If it's out of sight, it's out of mind. Okay. Coming up here to the side of the car, this vehicle is equipped with advanced keyless entry. So I know you said that your daughter wants all that kind of technology stuff, right? So this car has all the newest technology. So when you walk up to the vehicle, all you do is just touch the button on the door. As long as that key is in your purse or in your pocket, the vehicle unlocks. It's really, really neat. Same thing if you come up to the passenger side of the car. Say that day your husband decides to drive, and so you come up to the passenger side. If you hit the button and you have the key on you, the car unlocks as well. So you don't even have to give him the key anymore. You can just hold on to it. So pretty cool feature. Inside the vehicle here, it's got all the tech gadgets like you're asking for. Up on the top of the dash there, you got a 7-inch navigation display, and that display actually does a whole bunch of things for the vehicle. One of the things that I'll point out, it actually can do Facebook. So I know for you, you're like, Facebook, well, you know, I don't want to do Facebook in my car. Well, your daughter, she's 15, she's going to start driving soon, and soon she'll be driving on her own, and you may let her take this car by herself, right? Facebook, that's a super distracting thing. People nowadays, they go on their cell phone, they're sitting at a stoplight, they search, you know, their Facebook on their phone. Well, with this vehicle, she can actually integrate her cell phone into the car. So it'll actually voice and say the things that are going on her news feed. So if she decides to use her Facebook when you're not in the car watching, at least she's going to do it in a safer manner. So it's a nice feature. On top of being able to do all those kinds of things on that screen, it does all your audio stuff. So for instance, if you're driving in the car, out on one of those hiking trips or going up to the pass on a skiing trip with the whole family in the vehicle, and say you have maybe an iPad or your daughter has her phone in the car and she wants to listen to some type of audio stuff out of her phone, but you want to have your phone hooked up to make phone calls, you can actually do both. So that's another feature that this is an advantage that you're not going to find on the Chevy Cruze or the Impreza. Those cars you may be able to play music through wirelessly, you may be able to make phones calls wirelessly, but you can't do both with two different cell phones simultaneously. So this car you can. You can have your phone hooked up for making phone calls. So if someone calls in, it's going to stop the music playing on her iPad or on her iPhone or some type of device that she has, and you can answer that phone call. So it's a really, really cool feature. With having multiple drivers driving the car, with yourself and your daughter going to start driving it, and maybe if your husband wants to drive it as well, you can actually hook 7 cell phones into this vehicle. And the nice thing about that is every time you get in the car and start it up, you can change whose cell phone is paired to it. It's going to store all your phone numbers. So again, for safety, if your daughter gets a phone call while she's driving the vehicle, instead of her taking her phone out of her purse and checking that type of stuff, it's going to pop right up in the car. It's going to show all the numbers. If she wants to make a phone call, some cars, it'll do the same type of scenario, but they don't store a ton of numbers. And I'm sure with your daughter being 15, she probably has a lot of phone numbers in her cell phone. So this car, you can actually store up to 10 numbers per person. So if she puts in a friend that has a couple cell phones or a work phone or whatever, or a home phone, she can store up to 10 numbers for each individual person. And then each cell phone can store up to 1,000 phone numbers. So it's a pretty phenomenal thing. So if she's talking to more than 1,000 people, that's probably too many. So hopefully not. Other things inside this, it's got leather seats, so really nice material to it. So when you're spending all that time driving back and forth to work, you don't want to have kind of a luxury interior. So this has that. You have leather steering wheel, so when you put your hands on the steering wheel, just get that really nice feel to it. In fact, the steering wheel on this, it's a little bit smaller than you're used to in the Durango. One of the advantages on this is it actually has an electronic power steering. So the power steering on this, when you're driving slow, it's going to give you more assistance. So it's very easy to steer in a parking lot. But when you go faster, it stiffens up a little bit, so you have more of that kind of performance steering. So it just feels sportier compared to your current Durango. Other advantages on electronic power steering is it doesn't take as much gas to run it. Because like in your Durango, it's got an accessory belt that's running your power steering, right? So some of the engine's horsepower has to go to running the power steering, so it takes some of that fuel economy away from you. Also takes some performance. This, it's electronic, so more of that fuel economy goes, where you need it, and more of the power goes to the wheels where you need it as well. So that's how you're going to get much, much better gas mileage than you're getting currently in your car right now. Some other stuff on here that's going to be really neat. It's got a heads-up display on the top of the dash. So you may have seen that, in high-end sports cars like a Corvette or something like that, where it puts the speedometer right up on the windshield. Well, this does basically the same thing. There's a display that actually lifts up when you turn the car on, and you can see how fast you're going. Plus, it even puts the navigation display up there as well. So if you have something in the nav telling you to, go left up, 200 feet ahead, on that display it'll say 200 feet, take a left. So really, really neat display. The things with that makes it safer is when you're sitting in the car, again, you don't have to take your eyes off the road because it's right there in your windshield. So with a new driver starting to drive, that's going to be a huge thing for her. I mean, she's got so much stuff to worry about. The last thing you want her to do is have to take her eyes off the road to check her gauges. So this way she doesn't even have to. One advantage by having it on that little screen versus like what Chevrolet does with their Corvettes and by putting it on the windshield is this windshield is just a standard windshield. So when you go to replace it down the road, you don't have to pay for some super expensive windshield that has a special coating on it to reflect the speedometer that gets shot up on the windshield, because this one is on that little screen right there. So cost of ownership is going to be a lot less on this. So it's another nice feature. Other nice safety things for you and your daughter and your husband, whoever wants to drive the car. This has blind spot monitoring. So in the mirror, there's actually going to be a little light that lights up right here. So if someone's in your blind spot, this vehicle sends radar out through the back of the car, and it's going to let you know that somebody's there. It's going to light up if someone's in your blind spot. If you put your turn signal on, it even beeps to let you know that somebody's there and to basically say, don't change lane. So it's a nice safety thing. And again, for your daughter being a new driver, that's going to be a huge one for her. Other things you can get on this is lane departure. So that's a great feature for anybody, not just your daughter being a new driver. So when you're driving down the road, and especially with your 60-mile commute, 30 there, 30 back, if you start falling asleep at the wheel in the morning or, whatever, get a little drowsy, and you start going out of your lane, you can have it set up for when you get close to the lane or when you actually go over the lane. If you're going over 44 miles an hour, it's going to make a rumbling noise through that side of the car. So if you go over the left part of the lane, it's going to rumble in the left part of the car. Just like if you hit one of those rumble strips, makes the kind of same noise. So you know to kind of wake back up and get back in your lane. So it's a nice safety thing. With your daughter, one of the big ones that I'd point out, you may get a chance to use it, but with her, I could see it being more common. This thing has a smart city brake support. So what Smart City Brake Support does for you is if you're driving down the road, say, in traffic, which we get a lot of traffic around here, you're going under 18 miles an hour, and let's say your daughter is on her texting, or maybe even you're just, talking to somebody inside the vehicle and a little bit distracted. I'm sure everybody's had that situation where, you look up forward and all of a sudden the car just stopped and you panically slam on the brakes. I've had that happen before, and it's a terrible feeling when it happens. So with this vehicle, if it senses an object in front of you and it senses that you're not going to have time to stop, it'll actually just apply the brakes for you and stop you. So really, really cool feature. I've actually tested it out myself and just held up a box outside of the front of the car and driven at the box, and the car stopped right away, and it was really, really cool. And if that happens just once, one, it saves you your insurance deductible. Mine's $500, not sure what yours is, but it saves you at least, $500 if that's your deductible is. But the big thing is it saves your car and it saves you. Because let's say you get in a 10, 15 mile an hour collision, right? That's not too bad. You're probably going to be okay, but maybe your neck will be messed up. The car's resale value is going to be messed up because now it has an accident on the record. This way you're not going to have any of that stuff happen, so your insurance rates aren't going to go up. And with a new driver, insurance, that's an important thing too, I'm sure. Some other cool stuff about this vehicle that's really, really nice. With Sky Active, I'm sure you've wondered, what is Sky Active? You've been doing a little research compared, the Subaru and the Chevy and the Mazda, so Sky Active has come up. Well, what Sky Active is Mazda's new way to engineer a vehicle to get better fuel economy and still be fun to drive. Because that's Mazda's big thing, is to have a car that's fun to drive but gets great fuel efficiency. So how they did that was they did a new Sky Active chassis. So this car, the chassis of the vehicle has more high tensile steel. So high tensile steel is stronger and lighter weight, so it's going to be safer for prevent of an accident if something were to happen. But also being lighter weight, there's less mass to move. So compared to your Durango, that's one of the reasons you're going to get better fuel economy in this. Other thing, the engine in this vehicle, they've come out with our new Sky Active engines. So they have two engines in this. They have a 2-liter engine with 155 horsepower, and they have a 2.5-liter engine with 184 horsepower. Either way you go, you're going to get phenomenal fuel economy. In fact, even if you go with the largest engine, which is in this one, the 184 horsepower engine, you're going to get better fuel efficiency, combined gas mileage, than the Subaru or even the Chevrolet. And gas mileage-wise, compared to those vehicles, when you compare the gas mileage and the horsepower, it's incredible. So Mazda has a neat little app that they came out with, and it shows all the comparison of the vehicles that you're looking at, so they've already done the research for you. So compared to those three cars that you've looked at, when it comes to horsepower, Mazda has 184 horsepower in this particular one. If you go with a Chevrolet, it's 138 horsepower. And if you go with a Subaru, it's 148 horsepower. So by thinking about those numbers, you would think that Mazda has the least gas mileage because it has so much more power than those other vehicles. But like I just talked about, it doesn't. In fact, the combined gas mileage is 31 miles per gallon for that city and highway versus 30 miles per gallon and 30 miles per gallon for the Chevy and the Subaru. So it's incredible that we have so much more power but still get better gas mileage. And even on the highway, you're going to get 37 miles per gallon with the Mazda and 27 miles per gallon in the city if you go with this engine. If you go with the 155 horsepower engine, which even has more power than the Subaru and the Preza as well, it's going to jump all the way up to 40 miles per gallon on the highway. So that's incredible gas mileage. And those ones on the highway get 38 and 36. So 38 for the Chevrolet and then 36, as you can see, for the Subaru. So huge reasons why to purchase this over those cars. If it comes down to you liking all three of the vehicles, fuel economy savings, and then the big thing with the safety, you can't get the Smart City Brake Support on either of those other two vehicles. They just don't do that. The blind spot monitoring, that's available in some newer cars, but not all of them. So there's a lot of extra things on here that's going to be great for you. One of the other things you're not going to be able to get with the Subaru, they do have a version of it with the Chevrolet, but it doesn't work quite as well as ours, is radar cruise control. So with our vehicle, when you're doing that big commute and you're driving down the road, you set it to whatever speed you want to go. If someone pulls in front of you, the car's going to automatically slow itself down, and it's going to go whatever speed they're going. If they move back out of the way, it speeds back up. Very, very nice. I've used it myself. It slowed me all the way down to 25 miles an hour on the freeway when I was taking an off-ramp. Got back on another freeway, it sped me right back up to 65 to what the car in front of me was doing. With Chevrolet, they'll tell you they have radar cruise control, but all it does for you is just shut the cruise control off. So if it senses there's a vehicle in front of you, instead of just slowing you down and then speeding you back up, it just shuts it off and slows you down. So with this, that's a huge advantage. We went all the way through and gave you all the technology you could absolutely, put in a vehicle. So let's go ahead and jump in this car and take it for a test drive.